Hey guys, welcome to the regular Tuesday meeting. Today we're gonna go through the CTF Learn challenge for today, the three challenges, and also we're gonna go through a interesting project that we're gonna bring forward, and Alex Zimmer is going to talk about that in the later portion of this meeting. And so, out of all of you guys, how many of you guys have tried or attempted to do the challenges for this week? Anybody?
Did you post are they new ones from the ones we talked about yesterday?
No, it's the one that
Oh,
we
okay.
talked about yesterday.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no.
Okay. Um, out of so did you guys try them?
Yes, I tried the first one and I took a look at the second one as well.
And what you guys think about those?
I did the same as who was that, Mike that just said that?
Yeah, makes
Yeah.
up the
Yeah, I did the same as him. It was tough. That I mean, what's his Kyle showed me yesterday though the first one, the easy one
mm-hmm.
with like replacing the find and replace. That was fine. Second one was Wireshark, and then he went through that as well. But Wireshark, I had no idea what I was looking at. But I mean, it's cool to start seeing what this stuff is.
Yeah. So a lot of the things that we try to do with the CTF Learn is trying to bring forward new ideas and how to approach things, even though you don't know any, let's just say you don't know all the aspects of the challenge or you don't know how to use all the tools. Is how can we potentially research our way into the problem or find our way, pivot through the problem and the challenges itself with the resources that we have. Of course, that resource list will grow as we go on, but how can we utilize what we already have to tackle what problem we have in front of us? So let's look into the first one. So for the first one, let's see. Hmm, all right, let's not look at this one. The first one was a challenge that gave us a text file, I believe. Yep. Oh, okay. Okay. And if we're, let's save it first. All right, it's this one over here. I re-downloaded it again, but you don't really need to do that. And it gives us a text file. We could open the text file, but you know, the safety precaution is always to check what it is that we're opening. So it's always good to, oh, it just tells us that it's a CTF-8 Unicode text. If you Google that, that just shows us like a regular decoded text file. So if you open it onto the actual stuff, I believe, it shows us a blank page. And this is not really helpful for us, so we need to find a way for us to see something inside of it. We could do strings. Strings with the lowercase s, and it shows us nothing. It's a big blob of empty spaces. And one of the incredible tool about Linux is it has a hex, kind of like a hex dump, hex editor thing right onto the terminal itself. And then to use that is XXD. Let's see. So I think you could, okay, see, and it just give you, you have different options and then you could output all the different things. So print a summary, a number octet, little endian. So all these are different kind of way of viewing a file within the binary itself. You could just input the file. You don't need the options, the inline out file, XXD. Let's try that. Okay, So it gives us this, and it just gives us a a dot and a bunch of dots and spaces. So from the look of this, what do you guys think this is? All right, what kind of clues does this give you? Or like what kind of memory does it trigger or anything like that? Does anybody have an idea?
I thought it was Morse or Braille just from looking at it. I mean, and then I was like, Braille got quickly weeded out just because I saw the dots in a line, but I thought Morse at first.
All right, yeah. So I was thinking about that too, Braille, but with Braille, the if you search up like is that how you spelled Braille? Yeah. So I was looking into this and I realized if Braille, it needs to be some kind of formation of a bunch of shapes. And since we don't know the spacing, it was really hard for us to see because this is all just in a one singular line, and we don't know if it's like a text wrap or anything like that. So I ruled it out because of the fact that we don't know what kind of shape it could form. If it was a three line, we could have tried it. Another thing I tried, Hunter said Morse code, a- and Morse code has dot and these long pauses. I was, but the only thing that was tripping me up was because the fact that we don't know if we could, if we have, if we replace the spaces by the long pauses, then we don't have any spaces anymore, right? And then that was one of the things, and this is the whole process of going through the problem, just a lot of trial and error to see what can this possibly be. And I kind of, and sometimes when you can't find out about something, you could walk away from it and come back to it later and then look at it from with a fresh mind. And what I thought about was an old analog switch or physical circuit. You know how before in the olden age, the circuits and binaries are represented by physical electric conduction. So on and off. And in a sense, you could communicate that way by just sending an on and off switch. And that's what I was thinking about. But how can we determine that by just doing this? I was thinking we could copy and paste this whole thing into kind of like every space. Since this is a space, there's an on switch and there's an off switch. And it's just repetitive, just continuously that way. We could maybe find something about that, right? Kyle showed an easier way yesterday that took about 5 minutes, but I took about an hour because of the fact that I tried to write a code for it, which is stupid. Um, and sometimes you over-engineer things. So I was thinking that if using Python to read the message, and if you know with Python 3, you could just do it straight from the terminal, and from here you could like open the file, right? So like you could do file open the message, and then you could do like R for read. Oh, can you guys still see that actually? Okay. And then if you do file read like this, it will give you this bigger blob. But if you see, this is basically the text representation of what we saw before, the dots. Instead, and the spaces still are spaces, but the dots are now translated into a Unicode. The dot U 200F that translates into the periods. And if we do something like read one or read two, I think. Let's see. If we do this, oh, let's load the file first. Read two. We see a space and then the whole code. So every time we read a character, it doesn't we read two, we're reading two characters. we read the space and this whole as a character. And in that sense, if we were able to use a Python to just create a loop and just change every input as an output, and then just go through the whole thing until the end of file and just turn everything into zeros and one, right? We see the repetition and we look at the pattern to create something like that. So I created a script. Mm, I think I already created one. So that's how you Control Z stops the Python 3. And then I think I created one called data process. So, and I just this, right? So I opened the file and I read it, in which shows us that whole line of the the space and the Unicode, and I created a resolve variable. And every time I go through the whole file and every character that I see, I match it with this ORD, in which convert it into an ASCII hexadecimal. You guys know what ASCII hexadecimals are, right? Or anybody have a question about that? Or you guys know?
I'm not too sure about.
Okay, so uh, an ASCII hexadecimal is basically um, the computer cannot sometimes, for the computer to see everything, they can't just look at all the different characters because there's millions of them. So they convert them into uh, a decimal number or a hex number so that these could be easily converted. Now, spaces is 32, right? And the decimal for space is 32, and for A is 65, and for lowercase a is a 97. So these are ways computer converts these maybe like a sentence into something that they could transmit online and send it over via like to the internet, and then it gets translated back. So there's a lot of different conversions happening so that every computer understands what it is that they're sending, the messages, and it could be converted back and forth. This is just a way for them to communicate. And through that, we're going to try to compare it to make sure if the character is a space, we're going to assign it to 0, and we're going to assign it to 1. Now, this was not by, like I didn't know this. I just did it by chance. If you put 1 and 0, and then I went through it, and then it was a mistake. And the whole thing is just continue trying again, right? This is the second time I tried it. So, I mean, there's only two options anyway. So I did 1 and 0, and then that was wrong. Now put 0 and 1. So if you hit a problem which you think you did at dead end, just step back and maybe change something and try it again. That's always the best way to approach these type of problem. Just the persistence of it. And with this, we're able to, let's go back. And if we do Python 3 data process py, we're given a binary that we created ourselves. And this is basically just the same thing. So for here, if I could scroll, it'd be amazing. Okay, it would just be, space, which is 0, 1, 0, 0, 0, 1. And from here, you could always convert it by yourself, but this part I use CyberChef, in which that's where I should have started in the beginning anyway. In CyberChef, I showed you guys last week, CyberChef does this amazing thing where you could do what you want it to do, and you input the file over here, and the output will be right here. So let's see, from binary. Let's look at, and you just drag it, drop it here, and there is different bytes length because the fact that they need to know how many letters you want to convert it into, like how many bits do you want it to stop as a delimiter, and the delimiter is just basically every time there's 8 bits, what do you want it next to it? So if you put like a comma, I believe it changes. No, it doesn't. I guess there is no delimiter, which is a space or anything like that. So I guess it doesn't do it. Doesn't change it. That's interesting. Yeah, but this one changes it. So if you change the byte length of how many they read at a time, it changes the output. And then the right one was 8 because every character, no, not every character, every, it needs to be 8 bytes per binary structure. And then after that, it will show us this from the global anti-terrorist tactic. If you read this, you pass. Congrats, your first task will come tomorrow. Good luck. And then it gives us the flag. And as you can see, the flag is the last, like maybe 100 characters. And yeah, that's the first one. Do you guys have any questions, remarks, anything? All right. Have you guys went this far? Anybody who wasn't in yesterday's meeting? Did anybody try it this far? Okay.
I only got to looking at the dots, and I don't know why I didn't think of binary.
Yeah.
I should have thought about that.
hmm Like I was thinking for it. I was thinking about it for a while too, until I was like watching YouTube videos and they were talking about light and you could communicate with light. So I was like, how do you communicate with light? So you just do an on and off, and then that's basically sending a binary. And pulses is a way for us to communicate too. A lot of things they're not able to. There's some media is not able to carry a lot of different information at the same time, like a whole packet. So they need to transfer the packet into a binary, and then that's how they communicate by passing the whole of the binary, and then they convert it. So it's a single stream of data, and that's like that's basically what this is, how it work. And all right, let's move on to the next one. Mm, the next one is challenge. Oh, my number, my keypad is not on. That's why. All right. Well, this one is a capture the flag. That's a hint that it's gonna be a PCAP file, and you should check out Wireshark. If you go to here, you download. I think I already downloaded it. I believe it's the flag 4 one. So for the next one, we were given just a random file. It doesn't have an extension. It just has a flag 4. And, since we have no idea what kind of file it is, or if we don't even look at the clues, we could do file. For you could tab for autocomplete. It's kind of annoying sometimes. And it tells us what kind of file it is. It says that it's a PCAP capture file. And how many of you guys know or has messed around with Wireshark?
I
I
haven't.
Yeah,
I only downloaded it for this challenge, and then I started looking at it, and I had no idea what I was looking at.
yeah. Wireshark is pretty beast at kind of looking at internet traffic, networking traffic that you could capture through all the different networking capabilities that you have. So you could do Ethernet, you could do wireless, you could also do any kind of interface cards that allows you to connect to the internet. It could be turned into a kind of interface for you to read internet traffic or networking traffic. Like right now, if I were to tap into the ETH0 and start looking through the capture, it actually is going on right now. If it, okay, or it's not. Although it says there's activity on it. I'm not quite sure
Sometimes it
why.
takes a second, I've found.
Yeah, probably. Well, let's, but the thing about Wireshark is you could load in PCAP file, right? So you could open and I just find the PCAP file. Maybe it's easier if we just open the folder and just drop it in. And also, Kali Linux also just does this and it shows that it's like a shark thing, which is pretty interesting. Oof. So when you see something like this, you could get easily intimidated. As you can see, the scroll bar is so tiny that it just continuously scroll like 200,000 things. I don't know. I think there are 7,000 packets. And a lot of people who is new to kind of CTS, when you're given something like this, you just tend to start reading one by one. And it's you will find the answer that way too. And that's a valid way to go through all these problems is to look into all the different things, make sure that they're not hiding it into any single packets. But when you have 7,000 packets, that's a lot of time. And now the thing is, we need to see what kind of information we need to find. So there's prioritization that you want to put into it. So the first thing is knowing the difference between a UDP packet and a TCP packet, right? So those are different kind of protocols that is clearly on this. So if this is all UDP, and if you keep scrolling down, it's color coded too. So the blue is UDP and the green is UDP. I believe is HTTP, and then yellow is usually TCP. And there's also TLS-V 1.2, and that's usually encrypted data information. So without the proper key or brute forcing it, you're not able to see kind of the way what the communication is. As you can see, like this is just a regular. This the single information that they give you is this random generated thing. I'm pretty sure it's like encrypted using some kind of key or RSA, AES or anything like that. So what we want to do is we start filtering. UDP is for streaming. If you're watching a movie, UDP is the the protocol that they use in order for so that you could load in all these things fast, right? But if you want communication, it's like, or let's just say we're sending a website broadcast or we're accessing something from the internet, usually TCP because of the fact we want reliability. So UDP is not reliable, it's just for speed, and TCP is for reliability. So we could take that out for now to see if there is anything that we could do. Okay. So by doing the exclamation mark UDP, we exclude the UDP packet. And then in this sense, we could also take out the TLS packets because of the fact we don't have the key. So for now, let's just take that one out. This way, we only have HTTP and TCP packets. And yesterday, Kyle also introduced a tool called Network Miner, in which I do not have. And actually, that was the first time I've ever known about that. So what I did was I just looked over the 3000 that was displayed, but I was not looking to all this 3000. I was looking to the sources in which we are doing a lot of the communication too. So I was looking at patterns, recognizing who was communicating with us the most, and potentially that could be our hacker. We want to see kind of scanning through all of it to see what it is that was happening as we go down this list of act file act like it's a from a TCP handshake. It's a three-way protocol, but the act is the rejection, right? A lot of it is going from this source, in which I believe is just trying to pollute the whole entire PCAP file with nonsense information. And we could also do a control F, in which just look for a word or within the display filter of things that could potentially give us information, like JSON gives us information. And then in this sense, this one just, it says the gray log, no extension, no session extension. Yesterday, if you were here, gray log is, if we Google gray log, it's a logging mechanism. Yeah, it's one of those. It's a log management. So we believe that's what they use to kind of create all these different traffic and make it noisier so that we could hide all these different things for the CTF. And we go down to the information and we are able to see kind of key things. We don't need to worry about these because these are just sample packets. It just tell you the destination, the outcome, and the destination, the source, and the outcome, right? And we don't need to see that. We want to see any kind of information that any kind of file that would give us information. So like this one is a reset, we don't need to worry about that either. We want to see, let's see if we find anything by color. So this one is continuous message and BSS. That one is a net bias session service. Okay, it doesn't really tell us anything either. And there's a lot of different things that just gives us the same thing. So let's see if there is anything that jumps out at us. There's another HTTP JSON here. Okay, we see a post here, and there is application API in which you get posts, like those HTTP protocol in which you're getting information from online or sending information, and that maybe we could look for that. So let's do a post. We can't search that up. Let's find one of these. Actually, we could just find more. This one will tell us too. And what I'm doing, I'm just looking at the different thing that we're trying to get from an online thing. So this one says get API user admin. This one is for this one is just a regular HTTP protocol. Anymore. What we could do is let's look at statistics, protocol hierarchy, and see the different things. Oh, okay. We looked through all of them and we were unable to see any kind of things that could jump at us. There's usually in a data exfiltration there's a block in which all the activity happens, but since it is not data exfiltration, um, I guess it could just be a string. So it would be hard for us. So we could look into the statistic to see any kind of thing that could help us. So conversations, you see, this one is for kind of streams of data. So the UDP streams and stuff like that. And we could see endpoints, packet length, depending, any information could be hidden in anywhere. So it could be the extension of a file, it could be where our data packets are going, and we want to see the, since we think we're trying to look for HTTP, before I try to look for here is for HTTP get request, we could see request sequences, and through that I was oh, we see requests, not request sequences. We want to see the request, and we see an HTTP request to Font Awesome, CTFl, this random site or address at their 9000 port, and we could see through all these different sites, right? But the thing that are interesting is this message line. Everything else just says JSON segment. This one look like they're trying to call for a particular file that they have. This one is an inventory thing. The font awesome is just to load their JSON. This one is their zone ID, but this one says message and it says this line. So we want to copy that. And as we know from the first challenge that we did last week, the equal sign shows like a base 64 encoded encryption, right? Base 64 is one of the most common ones, so we could try putting it back here. So we, okay, well, we don't want to paste that whole thing here. Mm, is it just kind of copy this whole thing? Yeah, just gonna copy this whole thing. We could do, and then it says here because we're trying to do a binary, but now we're looking for base 64, and we found a message. It says flag F and pcap. So this was one of the maybe easier Wireshark questions. I believe that there are way harder ones, and the way to do it is just sift through all different thing, all that Wireshark gives you. Wireshark is just one of the different packet management or packet analysis tool, and there's more advanced option. I'm totally not advanced at this. I believe there's so many people are so much better than me. I would spend half an hour. I spent half an hour doing this, and then I just share it with you guys the way I did it. I was gonna look into network miner, but I didn't get to for today. Maybe next week I'll do another Wireshark one. What you guys think about Wireshark? Do you guys want to do more Wireshark exercises?
Yeah, I think it's pretty interesting. Um,
I,
I just
I'd
have a
be I'd be open to it if you think that there's going to be more challenges with it for sure.
Oh, Wireshark is its own section within the like competition, or there's people out there that just sits and look at Wireshark all day. That's like their job. So knowing and getting familiar with the tool and the environment gets you to know what is normal within a network traffic and what is not normal. And that itself is worth a lot of money because the fact that um, there this goes through exactly the tiny little bit of every traffic that goes through your network. It just passes through this. It's it sits in the middle and just absorbs everything, just spew it back out. It doesn't change anything. This is not a proxy or anything like that. It just intercepts everything. And I believe it's super cool. All right, cool. Let's jump to the last one before Alex. The last one is super easy. Like the last one, I can't really explain it to you guys because it's one of those things I just want you guys to see. Actually, it's another medium question, and it gives you a file that was named, I forgot what the name, but I already downloaded it too. I believe. Oh, I think it's this one. What can this be? So if you look into the file, it just says an ASCII text with a really long line, no line terminators. So it's saying that it's just one line of a big text. So if we go to it, what can this be? It just tells you all this thing, right? And if you look into it, there's no way possibly knowing what this is. And I tried to scroll to the side of kind of like continuously, and there's no kind of pattern that I see. And I did what I did best. I believe that you should Google these things, right? So, knowing you see this, what do you think we should Google? Anybody? Anybody want to give it a shot? What should I Google? Knowing this, all I have. It just tells me what can this be. The challenge name was like it seemed like someone really likes special characters, and I realized that I if I search up special characters, maybe the first thing that pops up is what is up my internet? Why is it taking so long? Okay, well, it just tells me, oh, I think these are special characters. I guess all of it are special characters, but it's just the characters that are not normal English, I believe. This one is normal characters, but that's all we know. So someone's really like special characters, or could it mean something more? Or so it could be like embedded messages within special characters. But what do you think we should search up knowing that these are the special characters?
I mean, I would just probably search just brackets, parentheses, and symbols, and then, or I guess there's exclamation points in there too. I don't know.
Yeah, so like um when they said something, it's like could it mean something more? There's a concept called obfuscation. No, wait, Of yeah, obfuscation code. And what they do is they just it's the same code, but it just rambled around, in which does the same thing, but it makes it harder for the people to see. And that's their purpose of it because of the fact that if you're writing malware, you're writing all these things, you don't want people to just right away be able to see, oh, this is how I'm gonna destroy this. They want you to be confused as much as you can. So what we do is we could search up like obfuscation um, with special character, and then we could do a sample like before the thing is parentheses, exclamation point, brackets. So parentheses, exclamation point, brackets, and plus symbol. That's what we see right now. And uh, we keep looking, understanding code obfuscation. non-alphanumeric JS obfuscator. We see that JavaScript is one of those things that get obfuscated a lot, and well, we could search up JavaScript too. Let's see. We see JSFug, write any JavaScript with six characters, and that's exactly what it is, right? We see, uh, the two characters. So this character, what is it called? The blocks thing, and the plus is brackets, exclamation point, and plus. So we could just Google JS. All right, decoder. Let's look into this one, and we could just put in. Can we put in the file here? Sometimes I just look at online. You could potentially code it yourself too, but I don't think it's worth it. I want to see if I could put a file here. I want one that I could just like dump it in there. Give me one with the file. Oh, I am not trying to compile it either. Oh, there's a load file. And then we could see all file. What can this be? And open it. Run this. And it gives us the flag. Just like that. So a way for a very important thing is to know, like, see how can you possibly research and just continue pivoting your way through it. And I believe that the hard question was easier than the easy question if you went through that route. But there's a lot of rabbit holes with these type of questions. And I'm gonna hand it off to Alex Zimmer. Is Alex here? Let's see.
I am here.
Okay.
That
Would you
was
like
a
to talk about your
sure.
project?
Yeah.
Okay.
All
I'm
right.
going
So
to
that
stop
was fun.
sharing.
Thanks a bunch, Alex. All right.
Mhm.
So let me share my screen. Let me grab. I've got to choose a very particular window. But let's take a look at this for the time being. So, thanks to the help of Andrew, who's lending me some server space, I was able to set up a machine to act as a Minecraft server that is perpetually available. And I'd like to see if we can get this running and announce it to the rest of PACE students that this is open to play for everyone, regardless of what school or program you're part of, just as something to do for fun. But with this, there's also a lot of possibilities in regards to things we can craft to make custom. But I can, I guess, start off with just generally how it's structured to give a general idea of it. This is just HTOP. I'm not sure how much people are or are not familiar with, but HTOP is just sort of a command line based task manager. And so it's just showing you how much of the system is being utilized right now. And it's just some Etsy stuff. But we're going to go to the directory where the Minecraft server is. And when it is installed, it's installed in a particular user account and has a directory with a bunch of assets that are particular to that server. And everyone can see what I'm showing, right? Just making sure.
Yep,
Yeah.
we can.
All right, good stuff. So this particular installation makes use of a couple different systems. A bunch of different groups essentially have built off of the vanilla base of like Java Minecraft, and then created layers of customized configurations that allow you to very specifically tailor the state of the Minecraft world to however you'd like it. So you have a couple different files like YMLs that have a variety of various setting parameters. So we go into the paper.yml, You'll have a multitude of various settings and stuff of this nature. And so with this, there's an endless possibility of customizations. Now, the running script is this one called start right here. So if we want to look at this, there's the possibility that I could teach people a lot more about bash scripting, because that's a lot of what allows all of this to function. These are all just Linux commands strung together with various logic. And I could explain how this works and how you can use bash logic, bash scripting to your advantage, because I love it with the possibility of automated functionality. So that's a skill I love a lot, and the server is a good opportunity to tinker with it in a way where it's you get some practical use out of it. Now, Minecraft Java is run as if it's sort of a Java virtual machine. So in the command line, there's a program called Screen, which acts as a command line based window into that VM. So command here, screen-r Minecraft, which is the name of the virtual machine we set up in the launcher. And you're thrown into this, and it just looks like a wall of text. It is, but this is the world. Like, you only see the text, but it's running all of the logic, and the world is actively available to tinker with, to dive into, play around with. And these first indicators are just it initializing the world and telling you basic load up parameters, but it'll tell you when people join the game, what IP addresses they came from, the location within the world, and any particular distinctive actions that took place in the world. You can also pump in commands that give you output, so you can see how many people are online, and with this, there's also a select amount of commands unique to Minecraft itself in terms of the content within the game. So it is entirely possible to create unique content, and so for anyone interested in learning how to tinker with that, this is available for that sort of those custom operations as well. I don't know as much, but I can give, I guess, the initial skills to start going down that path as a way to sort of tinker with the Java and Bash commands. But with a project like this, there's a multitude of cybersecurity problems, and how do you manage this? And I would like to bring multiple people in on this, but then you have to answer the question of how do you set up the server in such a way where you're delegating the capabilities of various commands and access to various directories without giving everyone sudo capability. Because that means if every single account that has access with sudo means that if any one of those accounts is ever compromised, pretty much there goes the server. So how do you effectively delegate while giving all the access and availability that you need to all people participating? So an example of a question like this is, with that screen view into the server, it typically only allows the user who created that instance to access it. So in this case, there is an account I just called Club. At Berg Cybersec Minecraft is the name of the device, and this is the current location within it. Again, I'm not sure how many people here are and are not familiar with just overall Linux logic, so I just am over-explaining some things. But a way I delegated access to everyone in a black team group. So in competitions, there's a blue team that's responsible for the security, a black team that's responsible for competition architecture. So I was considering having different groups that are responsible for different things, and having those groups given access to various content. So if we actually look at the permissions, this entire directory, while it is by default owned by the club account, I made it so that the black team has full access to it as well. But then the server instance of the Minecraft, I guess, Java virtual machine that's active, typically, again, only has access through that club account. But I was able to inject a list of users in the black team to be added to the Java Virtual Machine's ACL, access control list, which then allows other accounts to have simultaneous access to that similar window that you saw earlier. So I guess I'll show that code by, members is will show you a list of all the users within a group. That's currently the club account and mine. And we're going to take a look at most of this was installed by default, most of this script, but I just added these couple lines down here. So black team, we're setting up a variable, is equal to the value of this full command function. And so members black team, and that will give me the list of a Zimmer and club pipe. So you're throwing all that value into a command called sed, which is it's got a bit of a funky syntax, but it's essentially replacing certain string values with other string values. In this case, we're replacing all the spaces in the output between the different accounts with a comma, which is what is needed in screen. So within screen, you're able to turn multi-user on, which is, I'd had to do a bit of research to figure out how to do that. So this is the initialization of that Java virtual machine, and then this is pumping custom functionality into that. Whoops. Yeah. And once multi-user is on, then you're able to add a single user or a list of users to the ACL of this particular Minecraft instance. So I guess I'll backtrack a little bit to the creation of the Java virtual machine. You have the program screen and -dsm and the name of whatever virtual machine you're creating, in this case Minecraft. And then because it's run with Java, you have to specify the specific, executable file. This determines the amount of RAM that you're allocating to this instance. So the XMS is how much memory it has to do the initial boot up, whereas the XMX value is the full amount of RAM you're allocating for the server in total, in this case 12 gigabytes, because we would like to have the server handle maybe 20, 40 plus people concurrently. And then you have to specify here the executable, which is the paperclip.jar file. And I know that's a lot of funky logic that I might be throwing at you all at once, but the more you tinker with this, the more you understand how it all works. And so that's one way so that's just how I solved the problem of how do we have multiple accounts simultaneously be able to access this instance and be able to tinker with the server and manage it properly simultaneously. So there's a multitude of questions like this to answer. And I can also show things like how do you effectively back up the content on a regular basis in an automated fashion. So I guess I'll swap over my view. So yeah, right now everything is coming through. Can you see the outline of Proxmox? Yes, you can. I have access to the server remotely through a mechanism called Proxmox. And this is a server, it's a hypervisor that sits directly on top of a server and can be accessed directly through your web browser. Although, depending on how we want to secure this, maybe only certain people have direct access to the Proxmox instance itself, because that can destroy or reboot an entire device. So here's the devices list right here, along with the groups they're in. But again, how do we delegate access without giving everyone absolute control? For that, I'm thinking of creating specific user accounts for people who would like to participate. And you can have people participate through SSH sessions. Now, the one downside with remote access with, RDP is that you can only have one essentially visual session at any given point in time. Otherwise, every subsequent person who logs in kicks the next person out. So I'd have to set up the remote access for a variety of people, and you'd be interacting through essentially just the command line window and not all this visual stuff here. But if you want to learn how to make use of Linux effectively, it's very useful to learn how to make use of the command line. I'm kind of rambling on about just the possibilities, but just to give everyone a sense of what can be done. But I guess I'll leave off with actually just sharing the link if people want to play it all. And this requires just Minecraft Java version. It doesn't require. There's also a Bedrock Microsoft edition, but that won't be compatible with this. Just to clarify. So let me type in these specifics. And if anyone is actually interested in making their own for their own personal purposes, I created a PowerPoint a while back that gives all the stuff. It's just a lot of nitty gritty, but if anyone's actually interested in learning about any of that, all the resources are right there for you. So over the course of this week, I want to set up the remote access protocols and create user accounts for people to get people on board and participating whenever they see fit. I'm not sure if we might be able to set up a collaborative thing where we have part of this on some Tuesdays or some other days during the week, but it might also just be whenever people have free and available time. So if anyone wants to have me create a user account for them so that they can start tinkering with this, just send me, I guess, first initial and last name for your username, and I'll set that up for you. But any questions from anyone?
Does the PowerPoint have all the information about the server itself?
Well, the PowerPoint is general parameters of how you would set one up. Yeah, it would have all the information about how you would set one up for yourself. But there might be missing a few things in conjunction with this particular one because it was more geared towards setting it up on a personal virtual machine on your own device, whereas this is a remote server being hosted through Proxmox. So it's a bit of a different setup, but all the core logic is in the PowerPoint.
Cool. Thank you,
Yeah.
Alex, for presenting that.
Alex,
No.
this is unreal. Awesome. Great work.
Yeah. Yaha.
I think that officially end the meeting today.